Good morning, guys. Science Bellwork, week 17, day 2. Continuing the theme that you guys started yesterday, are the seasons reversed on the other side of the world? Today we get into reading about and discussing how Earth's tilt and how it goes through its orbit, how Earth goes through its orbit around the sun, how that affects the amount of sunlight that certain hemispheres and locations receive, and how that affects temperature. It affects the amount of solar energy that's being absorbed by those locations. So I'm going to go ahead and read through the passage, a couple paragraphs there, and then we'll move on to respond to questions 1 and 2. Follow along as I read. Because of Earth's tilt, the amount of sunlight each hemisphere gets changes throughout the year. The hemisphere that is tilted toward the sun receives direct sunlight, while the other hemisphere receives only indirect sunlight. As Earth progresses along its orbit, the hemisphere in direct sunlight begins to tilt away from the sun, and solar energy decreases. At the same time, the hemisphere that is in indirect sunlight begins to tilt toward the sun, and solar energy becomes more intense. For any place on Earth, the varying amounts of solar energy result in different temperatures at different times of the year. This is the cause of the seasons. Summer is the season during which a hemisphere tilts toward the sun and therefore receives the most direct sunlight and reaches its highest temperatures. In winter, the hemisphere tilts away from the sun and therefore receives the least direct sunlight and reaches its lowest temperatures. Okay, so question number 1. During fall, does a hemisphere receive more or less solar energy than during winter? Explain your answer. So in fall, it's going to receive more solar energy than in winter, because as we see here, in winter, tilted away from the sun, receiving less solar energy, less sunlight, lower temperatures. So you would say in the fall it's going to receive more, because whichever hemisphere it is during fall, that hemisphere is tilted more toward the sun than it is in winter. There you go. Number 2, what do you think would happen if Earth's axis were tilted in the opposite direction? Well, if it's tilted in the opposite direction, then it's just going to flip to where seasons are going to be reversed. Northern hemisphere would have summer in January and winter in July, and then the opposite would be for the southern hemisphere. So how the southern hemisphere is opposite of us now, it would be the same thing, except for the seasons would be flipped for us as well. Alright guys, so there you have it. There's your responses. Hope you guys followed along. Made corrections if you needed to. Again, Science Bellwork, week 17, day 2. Have a good day, guys.